Hey everybody, welcome back to Havoc Maker Studio. It's almost like I'm doing these videos back to back. I'm trying to keep them short for you guys because I know you don't have a lot of time, and I have had a tendency to get long-winded in the past, so we're going to go through these fairly quick. Well, not fairly quick. We're going to cover about 5 right now of the professions for the Dragonbane RPG coming from Free League Publishing. This has been probably one next to Dungeons and Dragons. I would say the longest running RPG out there. It's been out since about 1982. Very beloved over in Sweden. Yes, it's Sweden, Switzerland, Somalia, Swaziland. No, Sweden. We're going to go with Sweden. And this game has been out for a very, very long time. And it's now coming back thanks to Free League Publishing. It's going to be available in August of 2023. It is, just so you're not mistaken, it is going to be in a box set, which is going to get you everything to play, including the rule book. So don't be thinking that when you guys see the box set come up online for you to purchase, or hopefully you go to your friendly local game store like Texas Toy Soldier or Board and Brew Games down in Humble, that you'll go in there and buy the box. Because sometimes you'll see the boxes from different RPG companies. They're more like starter boxes or get starting boxes, and they don't have everything. This box will have everything you need to play the game. So let's get into professions and not waste any time. We're going to go with the first 5 professions, and then the next episode we'll do the last 5. So you can, just like the kin and your attributes, roll randomly to pick your profession, which I think is kind of a fun way to not only if you're doing like 1-shot, 2-shot, be an interesting way just to try something out different, or try something else different. I guess you're both trying it out different. You know what I mean. All right. Let's check it out. The artisan. Now, the artisan, I think, a lot of these classes or professions, if you will, or professions or classes, if you will. Yeah, let's go with that. They don't seem necessarily like a class. It's more like just kind of a background. Now, what separates your character from other characters are your abilities that you choose later on, your heroic abilities, spells if you have them, your skills, and a little bit of the background goodies that come along with your profession. So the artisan is the first one that's up, and it's just as you imagine. These are your blacksmiths, weaponsmiths, bladesmiths, bricklayers, wainwrights, the works. Now, this is where you're going to pick up your skills and some of your first heroic abilities. You do have, I don't know if they're really considered a heroic ability from your kin or whatever kin you choose. I feel like they are, since you are using willpower, so we're just going to call them heroic abilities. So you're going to get your next heroic abilities dependent upon your profession. And also, at least here in the case of the artisan, like the key attributes is strength. You get a variety of skills. This also kind of helps direct which direction you're going with say, your weapon skills. Like, for example, they have axes, hammers, knives, swords. If you need to, I'm sure you could work something out with your GM going, look, I loathe axes and swords. I just hate the idea of it. But I do like the idea of a spear. You know, it's one of the most simple weapons, say, a bladesmith or a blacksmith can make. And I really feel like that's my guy's key things. It's what he's really known for. And your GM can go, okay, you know what, let's go ahead and get rid of axes and swords, throw in a spear. Hammers and knives will stay, because those are, once again, very easy things that they'd be using. So then you have your gear. You're going to roll randomly to choose, or not choose, but to get what your starting gear is, which is, of course, awesome. I like that. Instead of everybody having the same thing to start off with, we can make 2 different artisans, and or make both you and I can make an artisan and can come up with a vast difference between the two, including the gear. So going on with the bard. The bard is kind of what you expect, guys and gals. They're your minstrels, your troubadours, whatever you want to call them. Charisma, really a charisma-based class. Profession as usual. a variety of abilities, not a lot of combat abilities. You'll notice that at least here, the only combat skill that they start off with, at least from their profession, are knives. Now, don't be thinking like we're going to cover knives and the different weapons later on, and you're going to get a kind of a wake-up call, kind of a shock to your system, especially if you've been playing Dungeons & Dragons forever or a few other games out there that really don't know how to gauge lethality of weapons. This system gets it. They understand it. They have a heroic ability called Musician. It's just one, where the artisan had 3 to choose from. And of course, we have our different gear and whatnot. And it's kind of the typical, at least I think it's typical, they have an image of a halfling being a bard. Usually I see almost in every RPG, halflings as bards or thieves of some sort. Thieves, rogues, robbers, cutthroats, that sort of thing. Which, okay, it makes sense. There's, I would say, even though the halfling themselves are not a real world race or species or whatever ancestry kin, but there's definitely some historical precedence to, I believe the correct term now, the correct vernacular is little people, which does fit into this. Now, that's based on history. I'm not saying that they're all bards and minstrels and rogues and stuff. I'm just going based on the information we have from history. All right, I'm going to move on before I get canceled. So we have the fighter. This is our third of number 3 of 10. The fighter is exactly what you think, except in this case, it's kind of leaning more towards men-at-arms, or not freemen during like historical medieval period, but I would say closer to mercenaries, Landsknechts, or not Landsknechts, yeah, Landsknechts, or just retired soldiers and such. So here is where you have a lot of combat ability. So if you really want a combat heavy character, this is it. The only skill that is not really combat, but it is kind of combat, is evade. Everything else you have is axe, bows, spears, swords, hammers, all the different weapon skills that you're going to be starting off with, which I think is great if you really want to be this sort of fighting character. If you want to be the tank, the damage dealer, the vanguard, the DPS person, if that's your shtick. So they have a veteran heroic ability, and we're going to go over the heroic abilities on another episode. Gear is the same thing, except that you're going to be starting off with definitely better than average equipment, especially in regards to combat, than everybody else, all the other professions, with the exception of one other that we might get to today. So next up is the hunter. I would not say they're the ranger or the druid or the scout. They're kind of a combination of all of them. Now, here you're going to be using agility as your primary attribute. You've got a nice, delightful arrangement of skills, from bushcraft to bows and knives and awareness. A lot of survival skills, exactly what you expect from a hunter or somebody that spends their time outdoors. Now, if you're like want to really expand upon that, maybe have an alternative, you can work with your GM. Some people, at least I've seen in other RPGs, and I'm sure you have too, is that, well, I'd like a city rat or a city-born ranger or something along that lines. And I'm sure you could tweak some things like bushcraft, hunting and fishing, and work some things out with your GM to swap those out with maybe some existing skills, or just tweak how they work, right? Hunting and fishing probably could stay the same, because even if you do live in a city and you're poor, going fishing and hunting, those are pretty much free food. You have to work for it a little bit, but it's working for yourself. Anyways, bushcraft could become citycraft or sagacity, you can figure it out. I'll leave it up to you and your GMs. They have the heroic ability companion, and this is, from what I kind of briefly read over, it's exactly what you think. You get yourself an animal companion, right? And I think this is number 5. So this is probably where we're going to cut this one off at, but we're going to go ahead and cover the knight. The knight is exactly what you expect. They're somebody of a minor nobility, most likely, like a landless baron or someone along a lord or laird or lady, and you've given your oath of fealty to somebody else. Who knows? Maybe that oath has been broken, and now you're a wandering knight. You guys can work that out yourselves. So strength is your big one. Beast lore, hammers, myth and legends, performance, spears, swords, persuasion. They've got a lot. They've got a very broad range, exactly what you'd expect from a knight, an actual, I would say, closer to historical knight who wasn't just about going out there and poking people with their spear or hitting them on the head with their mace or anything like that. Heroic ability of guardian. So this kind, I still haven't looked at the guardian ability, but it's kind of lending itself to probably the tank of the different professions. We'll get into that later, and it'll be a big surprise for both of us. And here's where you're going to find a much better, if you want the best equipment possible, the knight is probably going to be the route you're going to go. It is definitely greater than the artisan, and definitely better than the fighter you're going to be getting, as opposed to, say, chainmail or studded leather, which studded leather really isn't a thing, but it kind of in a way is, but not really. But we're talking about historical versus fantasy. But you're definitely getting much better armor and equipment if you want to go, if you go the knight route. So I think so far it's a very good blending of different character professions, and we add in the kin between the 6 different kin and the 10 different professions. You got a big variety that you can choose from. So this is only halfway through. The next video, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the last of the professions. We still are going to be covering combat and the heroic abilities and spells. Anyways, once again, thank you guys for watching. I really greatly appreciate it. Make sure, if you have not yet, hit the subscribe button, a thumbs up. And if you guys got some comments, good, bad, ugly, go ahead and put it down below. I appreciate it. Anyways, chat with you guys later.